The boardroom was silent, the kind of silence that buzzes beneath the skin. Camille Morrow stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, jaw clenched, eyes flickering with something sharp, frustration, maybe, or that particular brand of fury reserved for billionaires whose time has just been wasted. "Let me be perfectly clear," she said, voice like glass. "If I have to sit through one more investor presentation filled with recycled strategies and ego-driven projections, I will fire every last one of you and run this company myself until I drop dead." No one dared breathe. Camille looked devastatingly composed, in that terrifying way that only someone with power and no time for pleasantries could. Her dark hair was pulled into a sleek bun, her tailored suit charcoal and merciless. Her lips were painted the same color as fresh blood. When no one responded, she exhaled slowly. "You know what?" she said, almost to herself. "I'm done with overthinking. Maybe I've been too patient, too logical. Clearly, logic has failed us." "Ms. Moreau," her assistant began, cautiously. Camille raised one hand, silencing her.
"No.
"I'm serious. I'm tired of strategizing, of being disappointed, of wasting my time trying to build something when everyone around me is stuck playing it safe." She turned toward the massive glass windows, the skyline of Chicago blazing behind her. "Maybe I should do something reckless, irrational, something pure." Her eyes narrowed. "Maybe I should just marry someone. Start from scratch. Partner with someone who doesn't even want the job. Someone who might actually surprise me." There were a few nervous chuckles around the table. Camille didn't laugh. "The next person who walks through that door," she said slowly, "I'll marry them." "Camille," her assistant said, clearly thinking she was joking, "you're not serious." Camille turned. Her eyes burned with something dangerous. "Try me." The room froze. A moment later, the door opened, and everything changed. She was wearing faded jeans and a security badge. Her brown curls were tied messily atop her head. Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments, on a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference. A gray hoodie hung loosely from her shoulders, and her janitor's cart squeaked slightly as she pushed it forward, pausing mid-step when she realized she'd walked into something. "Oh," she said, blinking.
"Sorry."
"I didn't know." Camille stared at her. The janitor girl's eyes met hers, and the entire room vanished. Camille's breath caught. Her mind blinked. Her carefully constructed armor cracked, ever so slightly. "Who are you?" Camille asked, stepping forward. The girl hesitated.
"Marley."
I clean the south wing. At night, usually. I think I came in too early." Camille didn't blink. "Marley," she repeated. "Yes. Would you marry me?" Silence. Someone choked on their coffee. Marley blinked once. Then again.
"Sorry."
"What?" Camille stepped closer. "I said, would you marry me?" Marley looked behind her, as if checking whether this was some kind of prank show. "You don't even know me." "That's the point," Camille said. "I've spent years surrounding myself with people I thought I understood. It's time to try something different." Marley stared at her. "You're serious?" "Completely." "You're insane." "Also completely." Camille's expression didn't waver. "I'll compensate you. Generously. You'll live in my home. Travel with me. You'll be safe, respected. Free to leave whenever you decide it's not for you." Marley looked down at her gloves. "I was just trying to change out the trash bins. And now you're being offered a contract marriage with the CEO of Morrow International. Why?" Camille looked at her with something unreadable in her eyes. "Because I think you just walked into my life for a reason." Marley stared at her for a long time. Then she said, "You're lucky I'm bored," and walked toward her. The boardroom erupted in whispers. Camille didn't smile, but something in her eyes softened. "We start tomorrow," she said. "No press. No leaks. This stays between us until I decide otherwise."
"Fine," Marley said.
"But I'm not calling you ma'am." Camille raised one eyebrow. "We'll see." Marley smirked, pushed her cart back out the door, and disappeared.
Camille turned back to the board.
Meeting's over. She walked out without another word. That night, alone in her penthouse, Camille poured herself a glass of wine and stared at the city lights. She had no idea what she'd just done. But for the first time in years, her chest didn't feel hollow. It felt like something had cracked open. And something new, terrifying, alive, was trying to grow. The next morning, Marley stood in front of a 20-foot-tall mirror in Camille Moreau's penthouse, barefoot, holding a black velvet box that had arrived before dawn. Inside, a platinum engagement ring with a single, sharp diamond. "She's serious," Marley muttered to herself, turning the box over in her hand. "This is actually happening." The assistant had shown up at her door at 6:42 a.m. with a contract, a non-disclosure agreement, a driver, and a wardrobe stylist. Marley, still wearing her janitor hoodie and fuzzy slippers, had stared at them with a kind of slow, amused horror. "Do I get breakfast?" she'd asked. "You get a chef," the assistant replied. And now here she was, standing in a suite that overlooked the Chicago skyline, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent, with the faint scent of sandalwood and danger hanging in the air. "You look cleaner than expected," Camille said, suddenly appearing in the doorway behind her. Marley turned, startled. "Jesus, do you float? I didn't even hear you." Camille walked in slowly, wearing a navy blue suit tailored to perfection, her heels clicking softly on the marble. "I don't float. I have silent floors." "Creepy," Marley said, crossing her arms. "Fascinating," Camille countered. Their eyes locked. "So, do I pass inspection?" Marley asked, gesturing to herself. "You look different." "That's not an answer." Camille stepped closer, gaze unflinching. "You look like someone I don't understand." "I think I like that." "You're weird," Marley said. "You're honest," Camille replied. "It's refreshing." "And this?" Marley held up the ring box. "A formality. Wear it when we go out." "I don't expect romance, if that's what you're worried about." "Oh, I wasn't worried," Marley said with a smirk. "I don't fall for corporate types with ice in their blood. And I don't fall for janitor girls with no filter," Camille replied dryly. "Good," Marley said. "Then we won't have any problems." "Unlikely," Camille murmured. "But entertaining." An hour later, they stood in a courthouse with a judge who didn't ask questions and 2 assistants who signed the witness forms. No guests. No press. No love. Just a signature, a photo, and a ring slipped onto Marley's finger that still felt heavy hours later. "Congratulations," the judge said. "You're now legally married." Camille looked at Marley with a nod. "Shall we?" "You didn't even flinch," Marley said as they walked out. "This is a business transaction," Camille said. "I don't flinch at contracts." "So, what am I now?" "A department." "You're an asset." "You're so romantic, it hurts." Camille smirked. "Try not to fall for me." "Not in this lifetime, CEO Barbie." "That's Mrs. CEO Barbie to you." Marley rolled her eyes, but didn't stop the laugh that escaped her. That night, Camille took her to a gala. The dress had been waiting in the car, a deep burgundy number that hugged Marley's body like it had memorized her curves. Camille wore black, sleek, severe, commanding. As they stepped into the ballroom, the photographers turned, the crowd hushed, and suddenly Marley realized exactly what kind of world she'd walked into. "Smile," Camille whispered, her hand sliding onto the small of Marley's back. "Why?" "Because they'll wonder why I married you." "Gee, thanks." "You don't belong here," Camille said quietly, "and that's why they're going to eat you alive. Unless you make them believe you do." "And how do I do that?" "Own it." Marley straightened her spine, looked straight ahead, and said, "Then let them watch me." They made their way through the crowd, Camille's hand never leaving her back, the whispers trailing behind them like smoke. "Is that her? She married a janitor? What is she thinking?" "She's beautiful." Marley caught pieces of it. Some cruel, some curious, some admiring. Camille, to her credit, acted unfazed. "They're terrified of unpredictability," she said in Marley's ear.
"And you?"
"You are chaos." "Thanks, I think." Camille guided her toward a table near the front. People greeted them with tight smiles and guarded eyes. Marley leaned in. How long do I have to keep this up? You're doing fine. I just flipped off a billionaire with a smile. He deserved it. Marley looked at Camille. You really don't care what they think. Not anymore. Then why me? Because you don't flinch either. The rest of the night passed in a blur of champagne, conversation, and watching Camille work the room like a queen among pawns. And all the while, Marley stayed by her side, half in awe, half in disbelief. When they finally got home, shoes in hand, Marley collapsed on the couch. I can't believe I survived that. Camille poured them each a drink. You didn't just survive it. You turned heads. I think I made enemies. Good. Keep them guessing. Marley looked at her. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, Camille said, offering her the glass. So what now? Marley asked.
Now.
Camille's gaze didn't waver. Now we see if we can stand being under the same roof. And if we can't, then we figure out if the contract is strong enough to outlast real life. And what if it's not? Camille sipped her drink. Then we tear it up and pretend none of this ever happened. Marley stared at her. You don't scare me, you know. That's exactly what scares me, Camille said softly.
And walked away.
It turned out Camille Moreau had a very specific way of living. Her refrigerator was organized by expiration date and color. Her closet looked like a museum of monochrome. Her calendar was broken into blocks of time so precise, even sleep had its designated category. Regeneration. And Marley? Marley lived like a hurricane in slow motion. Her socks never matched. She left half-empty coffee mugs on windowsills. She talked to Leo, Camille's robotic vacuum cleaner, as if it were her dog. On their 4th day of living together, Marley accidentally left a bag of chips open on the kitchen counter. Camille walked in, stared at it for a full 10 seconds, and said, That bag is dying slowly and publicly. So dramatic, Marley said, crunching loudly. You don't like mess? I don't like chaos disguised as charm. Well, I don't like silence disguised as control. They stared at each other across the kitchen. Then Marley said, I bet your blood is beige. Camille didn't blink. I bet you think sarcasm is a personality trait. I bet you've never eaten a gas station burrito. I bet you've never read Sontag. Marley narrowed her eyes. You're not better than me, you know. No, Camille said, walking away. Just richer. And yet, somehow, the tension never turned cruel. If anything, it started to blur into something else. Something that made Marley notice the way Camille's mouth twitched when she tried not to laugh. Something that made Camille linger in the doorway when Marley danced around the kitchen in socks and a tank top. They didn't talk about it, but it was there. One night, a storm hit the city, the kind that made the windows shake and the power flicker. Camille was in the library reading. Marley walked in barefoot, holding a blanket. This place is too quiet, she said. It's peaceful. It's haunted. By good taste. By loneliness, Marley corrected. Camille looked up. Her expression softened. Do you miss your old life? You mean before I got fake married to a billionaire? Yes. Marley walked over, sat on the floor beside her chair. I miss knowing who I am. Or, at least pretending I did. Camille closed her book. What do you mean? At the janitor job, no one expected anything from me. I showed up, did my shift, went home.
Now?
Everyone looks at me like I'm either some charity case or some social climber. Do you care what they think? I care that you haven't told me why you really picked me. I already told you.
No.
You said it was impulsive.
Strategic.
Disruptive. But that's not the whole truth. Camille stared into the storm outside. I saw something in you I didn't expect. Something real. Everyone in my world is polished, rehearsed, hungry for something. You didn't want anything from me. That's because I didn't know who the hell you were. Camille smiled faintly. Exactly. Marley hesitated. Do you ever regret it? No, Camille said. But I regret how lonely I was before it. The confession hung between them like lightning. Marley stood, walked over, and draped the blanket around Camille's shoulders. Then maybe we're both figuring out who we are now. Camille looked up at her. Maybe. The power flickered again. The lights went out. Total darkness. Marley reached for Camille's hand. Just for a second. Neither of them mentioned it. The next day, Camille's assistant cornered her outside the elevator. You know this can't stay secret forever, she said. The press is already sniffing around. Let them sniff. What's the plan when they ask who she is? Camille paused. I'll tell them she's my wife. And if they ask why? Camille didn't answer. That night, Camille invited Marley to a charity dinner. Do I have to dress like a trophy again? Marley asked. You are not a trophy. You're right. I'm a warning label. Camille raised an eyebrow. Wear black. You wear black. We'll match. Gross. You love it. Marley wore black. And heels. And red lipstick. And Camille, who didn't believe in indulgence, allowed herself a full 5 seconds of staring before they left. The dinner was at a rooftop venue, glittering and cold. As they walked in, someone whispered, That's her. The janitor girl. Marley froze. Camille reached for her hand. Not for the cameras. Just for her. Breathe, she said softly. They don't matter. They're looking at me like I'm a stain. Let them, Camille said. They can't look away, can they? Marley looked at her. Why are you defending me? Because you're not a stain, Marley. Then what am I? Camille's gaze was unwavering. You're the only honest thing I've let into my life in years. And Marley, sharp, irreverent, brave, had no comeback. Just a flush in her cheeks and something she didn't want to name stirring in her chest. And for the rest of the evening, Camille didn't let go of her hand once. Camille never let anyone into her bedroom. Not assistants. Not lovers. Not even friends on the rare occasion she had any. But on the 8th day of their strange new life, after Marley fell asleep on the living room couch in a nest of blankets and half-eaten chips, Camille stood over her for a long time, then gently nudged her awake. Come on, she said, voice low. You'll hurt your back sleeping like that. Marley blinked up at her, groggy. I'm fine. You're not.
Come with me.
To where? My room. Is this a seduction? Hardly, Camille said. It's a king-sized bed with memory foam and a 1,200 thread count comforter. Sounds exactly like seduction. I'm offering you better sleep, not foreplay. So, emotional foreplay. Camille exhaled, already regretting the invitation. But when Marley finally followed, barefoot and sleepy, into the massive, impossibly minimalist bedroom, something about it shifted. Camille wasn't used to being seen in her private space. Without armor, without artifice, without power. And Marley, wearing flannel pajama pants and a faded t-shirt that said, Don't talk to me before noon, was pure contradiction. A disruption in Camille's curated world. They lay side by side on opposite ends of the bed. The silence stretched between them. You're tense, Marley said, eyes closed. I'm always tense. You don't have to be with me. Camille turned her head. That's not how this works. Isn't it? We have a contract, Marley. We're not real. Tell that to your hand, Marley murmured. Camille looked down. She hadn't noticed it, her fingers resting inches from Marley's hip. She pulled away like she'd been burned. You're exhausting. You're oppressed. I'm disciplined. Tomato. Camille closed her eyes. Just sleep. Fine. But sleep didn't come easy. Not with Marley's presence radiating beside her. Not with the air between them buzzing like static. Not with the memory of Marley's hand brushing hers still humming in her skin. Days passed. The media started buzzing. Rumors of Camille's secret wife leaked, despite her efforts to contain them. Photos of Marley at the gala hit gossip blogs. The Cinderella Janitor. One headline read, Moreau's mystery marriage. Camille expected Marley to panic. Instead, she laughed. Honestly, I look hot in this one, she said, pointing at a grainy picture of her whispering something into Camille's ear. What were you saying?
Camille asked.
That you looked like you were about to murder someone. I probably was. You have that look. Sexy, but homicidal. Camille gave her a sidelong glance. You think I'm sexy? I think you know you're sexy. And you? I think I'm not scared of you. Camille stared at her for a beat too long. You should be. Why? Because I don't know what I'm doing when I'm around you. Marley's smirk faded. Her voice dropped. Then maybe we're both lost in the same place. That night, they sat on the balcony, legs stretched out, a bottle of wine between them. Marley told stories about growing up with nothing, cleaning buildings her mom used to scrub before her. Camille listened quietly, never interrupting. You know what's funny? Marley said. I always thought money would solve everything. But now I'm here, surrounded by it, and I still feel like I don't belong. Camille's voice was quiet. You belong wherever you decide to belong. And do you feel like you belong in this life? Camille didn't answer for a long time. No, she said finally. I feel like I earned it.
Built it.
Fought for it. But belonging? She shook her head. That's different. Marley looked at her. Then what are we even doing? Camille met her gaze. We're figuring it out. One night at a time. The space between them narrowed. Barely noticeable. But it happened. The next morning, Marley woke up in Camille's bed again. They hadn't touched. But Camille's robe was draped over her. And a fresh cup of coffee waited on the nightstand with a sticky note. 2 sugars. No cream. Marley stared at it for a long time before picking it up. And smiled. Camille Moreau didn't believe in coincidence. She believed in timing, in control, in the carefully orchestrated mechanisms of power and intent. But there was nothing careful about what was happening between her and Marley. Nothing orchestrated. No control. It started with the small things. Camille noticed when Marley wasn't in a room. She noticed the drop in temperature when Marley left, the sound of her laugh echoing longer than it should have. She noticed how Marley had a habit of humming while she brushed her teeth, off-key and entirely unself-conscious. She noticed the way Marley took up space, without ever trying to. And worst of all, Camille noticed that she didn't want to stop noticing. You're distracted, Camille's assistant said during their morning strategy meeting. You keep rereading the same sentence. Camille blinked. Her finger was still on the line of text. I'm fine. Are you? What are you implying? Only that you've been different lately. Softer. Camille looked up slowly. Softer? It's not an insult, the assistant added quickly. Just an observation. Camille said nothing. That night, she found Marley sitting at the kitchen island, scribbling something into a notebook with her tongue between her teeth and her hair tied in a loose knot. What are you writing? Camille asked. Marley didn't look up. A list of things I want to do before this ends. Camille's heart stilled. Ends. This marriage. The deal. Whatever you want to call it. Camille crossed her arms. What's on the list? Travel somewhere warm. Eat pasta in bed. Sing karaoke. Climb something tall. Kiss someone I'm not supposed to. Camille's voice was too calm. And who exactly aren't you supposed to kiss? Marley glanced up, meeting her gaze with a glint of mischief. That's the fun part. Camille stared at her. She didn't say it, but she felt it. That heat again. Low, slow, creeping up the back of her spine. That night, she couldn't sleep. Marley's laughter drifted through the penthouse from the other room, watching some ridiculous comedy show Camille didn't understand. And Camille lay awake, fists clenched, furious with herself for wondering what Marley looked like when she was touched gently by hands that wanted her, not owned her. The next day, Camille's mother called. So it's true, she said, her voice sharp and cold. You married a janitor. Camille braced herself. Her name is Marley. And this is some social experiment? No, then what is it? It's none of your business. You're the head of a multinational company. Your choices reflect on all of us. You can't marry someone like her. Camille's jaw tightened. She's kind, funny, smarter than anyone you've ever invited to your stupid garden parties. You're emotional. I'm awake. Her mother sighed. This will end badly. Maybe, Camille said. But at least it will be mine. She hung up. Marley was in the hallway, barefoot, eating an apple. Family drama? Something like that. Want to talk about it? Camille hesitated. No. Want me to distract you? Camille raised an eyebrow. With what? Marley took a step closer. Want to do something reckless? Like, come with me, she said, grabbing Camille's hand. Camille let herself be dragged into the elevator, down to the garage, into her own black sedan. Marley slid into the passenger seat. You're driving. I hate surprises. Then you'll hate me.
Camille started the car.
Where are we going? Don't think. Just follow my directions. 30 minutes later, they were parked in an empty lot under a bridge, facing the lake, the skyline a blur of light behind them. Camille looked around. Romantic. Relax, Marley said. We're not making out on the hood of your car.
Good.
Yet. Camille turned her head sharply. Marley laughed. I wanted to show you this place because I used to come here when I needed to feel small, when everything felt too big. This spot reminds me that nothing lasts. Not the pressure, not the fear, not even the versions of ourselves we think we have to keep performing. Camille stared at the water. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. They sat in silence. Then Marley said, I lied about the list. Camille blinked. What? There's only one thing on it. Camille turned to her. And what's that? Marley's eyes didn't waver. Kiss someone I'm not supposed to. The air between them snapped. Sharp. Immediate. Dangerous. Camille leaned back slightly. That's not part of the agreement. Neither was sleeping in your bed. Or remembering how you like your coffee. Or you pulling my blanket up in the middle of the night when I was cold. Camille's breath hitched. I did that because you were shivering. No, Marley said softly. You did it because you care. You don't want to. You're terrified of it. But you do. Camille didn't move.
Didn't speak.
Marley reached out, gently tucked a strand of hair behind Camille's ear. You're not stone, Camille. And I'm not made of glass. Camille looked down at Marley's hand. If we do this, we don't have to do anything, Marley whispered. But don't lie to yourself. You feel it too. Camille's walls cracked. She didn't kiss Marley that night.
But she wanted to.
And Marley knew. Camille started avoiding her. Not overtly, not in a way anyone else would notice. Her schedule just happened to shift subtly, meetings stacked in the early mornings, late-night work sessions stretching into hours when Marley had already curled into the guest bed. Her answers became shorter. Her gaze flicked away too quickly. She was unraveling, and she knew it. But the thing about Marley was she noticed everything. You're dodging me, she said one morning, barefoot in the kitchen, coffee mug in hand, shirt rumpled from sleep. I'm busy, Camille replied without looking up from her tablet. You're always busy. That's not new. The new part is that you won't look at me. Camille forced herself to raise her eyes. Marley's hair was a wild halo around her face. She looked infuriatingly gorgeous in the kind of way Camille could never admit out loud. You're imagining things, Camille said flatly. I don't imagine much. I live in the real world. And what's so real about this?
Camille snapped, standing.
A fake marriage based on a moment of impulse? This isn't your world either. Marley didn't flinch. Maybe not. But I never pretended it was. You're the one who keeps shifting the rules. Camille's voice dropped. I don't know how to want something I can't control. You can't control me, Marley said. Camille's throat worked. I know. Silence stretched.
Thick.
Heavy. Charged. Do you regret it? Marley asked softly. Marrying me? No, Camille said immediately. That's the problem. Marley stepped closer. Then stop running. You don't understand. I understand you want me, she said, voice low and sure. And you hate yourself for it. Camille turned away. You have no idea what it's like to live with expectations that suffocate you. You're right, Marley said, closing the gap between them. I don't know your world, but I know how to breathe when everything feels like it's crushing you. And I know this. What's between us is real. Camille closed her eyes. Don't do this.
Why?
Marley's voice was barely a whisper now. Because if I touch you, I won't stop. Camille's breath caught.
Good.
That one word cracked something wide open. Marley reached out, fingers brushing Camille's wrist. Not forceful, just enough to ground her. Camille trembled. This isn't part of the plan, she whispered. Screw the plan, Marley said. Plans change. People change. I don't change. Then let me change you. Camille looked at her. Really looked. Marley's eyes were soft, but unwavering. Her mouth parted slightly, breath shallow. The heat between them was unbearable. If I kiss you, Camille said, stepping forward, everything changes. That's the point. Camille's fingers brushed Marley's jaw. Slowly, as if testing if it was real. Marley tilted her head slightly, inviting the touch. Camille leaned in, her nose almost grazing Marley's. But just before their lips met, Camille pulled back. Not yet, she said, voice shaking. Marley blinked. Why? Because if we do this now, it'll be out of desperation. Out of fear. I don't want you that way. Marley's throat tightened. Then how do you want me?
Camille's gaze was raw.
I want you when I'm ready to let you wreck me. Marley stared at her. Then slowly, she stepped back. Okay, she said. But just so you know, I already am. And she walked away. The days that followed were worse. Or better. Or both. Everything became charged. A touch brushing too long. A glance lingering too deep. Camille woke in the middle of the night more than once, heart racing, images of Marley haunting her. Marley laughing, Marley half asleep, Marley wrapped in one of Camille's robes. And Marley? She started leaving notes. Nothing big. Just post-its on the fridge. Don't forget to eat. You snore when you're exhausted. You looked pretty today. Camille saved every single one. She told herself it didn't mean anything. But it did. Everything Marley did meant something. One evening, Camille arrived home to find Marley in the kitchen cooking dinner. Real food. Nothing catered or plated with tweezers. I didn't know you cooked, Camille said. You don't ask much, Marley replied. Fair. Do you want some? Camille hesitated. I don't usually do something unusual. Sit down.
Camille did.
They ate in near silence. Marley poured wine. Camille drank more than she should. When dinner was done, Marley leaned back. That wasn't so painful, was it? No, Camille admitted. It was normal. Camille smiled faintly. I don't remember the last time I had normal. Marley's eyes softened. You know you're allowed to want things, right? Not just achieve them. Not conquer or dominate or control. Just want. Camille looked at her glass. I don't know how to want without turning it into a weakness. Marley reached across the table, took Camille's hand.
Warm.
Grounding. Then let me teach you. Camille didn't pull away. She let it happen. Let Marley's fingers curl around hers. Let herself feel how terrifying it was to be held without agenda. No plan. No power play. Just a girl who once changed trash bins in her building, now changing everything. Camille didn't know when she'd started listening for Marley's laugh the way someone might wait for the first sign of spring. She didn't know when Marley's footsteps started sounding like home, or why her name had begun to taste different every time Camille said it. But she knew something was shifting. Rapidly. Dangerously. And Camille Moreau hated not knowing where the ground beneath her feet would crack next. Marley, on the other hand, seemed perfectly comfortable living on that edge. She started leaving more of herself in Camille's space. Hairbands on the bathroom counter, hoodies draped over chairs, coffee cups with her lipstick marks resting beside Camille's laptop. Camille noticed every detail, but she never moved any of it. One morning, Camille came downstairs to find Marley dancing barefoot in the kitchen to a 90s playlist, hair tied up, hoodie half off one shoulder, singing dramatically into a wooden spoon. Camille paused in the doorway, unseen, transfixed. You're supposed to be at work, Marley said without turning around. Camille blinked. How did you? I heard your heels on the stairs. Marley finally turned, biting back a smile. Impressed. Annoyed. Same thing coming from you. Camille stepped into the kitchen. You're very loud in the mornings. I bring joy. You bring chaos. Marley winked. Same thing. Camille sat at the island, watching as Marley poured coffee into 2 mugs. You always this alive at 7 a.m.? Only around people I like. Camille froze. Is that what this is? What is? Liking. Marley set the mugs down. Are you asking if I like you? Don't flatter yourself. Too late. Camille took a long sip of her coffee. You never answered. Marley's tone softened. Of course I like you, Camille. But that's not the problem, is it? Camille looked up, caught in her gaze. No, the problem is that you like me back. The truth of it sat heavy between them. Camille didn't deny it. Couldn't. Instead, she stood. I'm late. Marley didn't stop her. But her voice followed Camille out of the room. You can run, but I'm still going to be here when you come back. That night, Camille came home late. Marley was curled on the couch, watching an old film, a blanket pulled up to her chin. She didn't say anything when Camille sat beside her. Just shifted, subtly, until their shoulders touched. Camille didn't pull away. Long day? Marley asked. Exhausting. Want to talk about it? Camille hesitated. Someone on the board asked why I'm still married to you. Marley's smile faded. What did you say? I said it wasn't their business. That's not an answer. Camille looked at her. I didn't have one. Marley turned her eyes back to the screen. You don't owe me anything, Camille. But if you want to hurt me, at least be honest about it. I'm not trying to hurt you. You're succeeding anyway. Camille exhaled. This was never supposed to be anything but a contract. You knew that. I did. Marley looked down at her hands. But you made it feel like more. Camille stared at the TV, not seeing any of it. I don't know how to do more. Marley's voice was quiet. Then learn. The next morning, Camille found Marley gone. No note. No message. Just silence. She didn't panic. Not at first. Marley liked space. She wandered. But as the hours passed and the penthouse stayed quiet, something inside Camille began to crack. By evening, she called her assistant. Have you seen Marley today? No, ma'am. Check with security. See if she left the building. A pause. She checked out this morning. Said she needed air. Camille hung up. She stared out the window for a long time. Then she picked up her phone. Typed out 3 messages. Deleted all of them. She didn't know what to say. She only knew that the silence felt unbearable. Marley didn't return that night. Camille barely slept. By morning, she was pacing. Irritated. Then panicked. Then angry. She hated this. This helplessness. She was Camille Moreau. She didn't wait for anyone. She didn't ache. She didn't long. She didn't care. But Marley had changed something. She'd slipped into Camille's life like sunlight through a crack, and now everything felt dimmer without her. When Marley finally returned that afternoon, carrying a bag of takeout and looking exhausted, Camille stood frozen in the foyer. Where were you? Camille asked. Out. That's not an answer. I needed space. You could have told me. You don't get to demand that, Camille. Not when you won't even admit what this is. Camille's voice cracked. It's terrifying. I know. Marley set the bag on the table. But I'm still here. Camille looked at her. At the girl who had been nothing but a name on a cleaning schedule. At the girl who now held Camille's heart in her hands without even knowing it. You came back, she whispered. Of course I did. Why? Marley stepped closer. Because I care. Because I'm not leaving unless you push me out. Camille didn't move. Don't leave again. Then stop pretending this doesn't matter. Camille's jaw clenched. It matters. Say it. Camille's hands shook. It matters. You matter. Marley exhaled. Then smiled. Okay, that's a start. Camille never thought that saying you matter would feel like bearing her entire soul. But after Marley returned, after she stood there with takeout in one hand and fire in her eyes, Those 2 words felt like the most terrifying truth she'd ever spoken. And once they were out, something shifted. Something irreversible. Camille no longer pretended she didn't wait for Marley to come home. She no longer pretended she didn't notice when Marley fell asleep on the couch, or how the curve of her mouth softened in sleep, lips parted, breath steady. She noticed everything. And this time, she let herself. That night, they didn't talk much. Marley reheated the food.
Camille poured wine.
They sat on the balcony wrapped in a blanket big enough for 2, shoulders pressed together. There was silence, but not the painful kind. It was quiet with understanding. A fragile peace. Did you mean it? Marley asked eventually. Camille didn't look at her. Yes. That I matter? You know I did. Then why did it take you so long to say? Camille took a slow sip of wine. Because if you matter, then everything changes. The stakes shift. And I've built a life where I never let anything matter too much. That sounds exhausting. It is. Marley tilted her head. What happens now? Camille finally looked at her. Her voice was soft. Now, I learn how to let someone in. Marley smiled. Not smug. Not teasing. Just warm.
Real.
And Camille thought, God, I'm already ruined for anyone else. The next few days passed like something suspended in amber. Tension still lived between them, but it was no longer sharp and guarded. It pulsed low, deep, like an ember waiting for air. One evening, Camille came home late from a board meeting to find Marley curled up on the couch, reading. Camille kicked off her heels, loosened her hair, and stood in the doorway watching her. Marley looked up. Long day. Camille nodded. Come here, Marley said, patting the couch. Camille hesitated, then moved. She sat beside Marley, slowly leaning into her until Marley's arm instinctively wrapped around her shoulders. It was tentative, careful, but the feeling being held gently by someone who didn't want anything but this moment hit Camille like nothing ever had. This okay? Marley asked quietly. Yes, Camille breathed.
And it was.
For hours, they didn't move. Marley read out loud from her book. Camille closed her eyes and let her voice fill the quiet. It wasn't romantic in the grand, cinematic way. It was quiet.
Simple.
Devastatingly intimate. And for Camille Moreau, who had spent her life building walls, this small moment felt like a revolution. Later that night, Camille brushed her teeth in the mirror, caught her reflection, and saw softness. Not weakness. Not vulnerability. Just something human. She wasn't sure how to feel about that. She turned around and nearly collided with Marley, standing barefoot in the hallway, sleepy-eyed and holding her pillow.
My room's cold, Marley said.
Camille raised a brow. Convenient. Don't make it weird. You like my feet pressed against your legs for warmth. That's a lie. You've never complained. Camille stepped aside. Come on. They lay in bed facing opposite directions, but neither of them slept. Marley broke the silence first. Camille? You're allowed to touch me, you know. Camille's breath caught. I know. You just don't trust yourself. Also true. Marley rolled over slowly, facing her. I'm not glass. Camille turned too. Their faces were inches apart. No, she whispered. You're fire. Marley's lips parted. And you? Camille gave the faintest smile. Still ice. But I think you're melting me. Marley leaned in, barely, but didn't close the distance. Then let me. Camille didn't move. Her hand rose instead, cupping Marley's jaw with a gentleness she didn't know she was capable of. If I kiss you, she said softly, I won't be able to keep pretending. Then stop pretending. And this time Camille didn't pull away. She leaned in slowly, deliberately, her lips brushing Marley's like a secret. The kiss was tentative, almost shy, then deepened when Marley's fingers slid into her hair. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't chaotic. It was reverent. Camille's hand trembled as it slid to Marley's waist. Marley pressed closer, sighing into her mouth, and Camille felt something inside her split wide open. Want. Need. Safety. All tangled together. When they finally broke apart, Breathless, Camille's forehead rested against Marley's. "I should have done that the night you walked in," she whispered. Marley smiled against her lips. "You weren't ready then. And now you're mine." Camille didn't correct her, because it was true. It had been true from the moment Marley walked in with a mop and a scowl and ruined everything in the most beautiful way. That night, they didn't rush. They didn't fall into bed like some cliché. They stayed tangled in each other's arms, whispering things neither of them had ever said before. Camille fell asleep with Marley's head on her chest, one hand resting over her heart. And when she dreamed, it wasn't of boardrooms or control or falling. It was of Marley laughing barefoot in the kitchen, singing off-key. And for once, Camille hoped she'd never wake up. Camille didn't recognize herself anymore, and that should have scared her. But instead, it felt like freedom. It was in the little things. She started waking up earlier just to watch Marley sleep, her curls fanned out on the pillow, one arm tucked under her head, the faintest furrow between her brows that only disappeared when Camille brushed her thumb over it. She started turning off her phone during dinner, letting emails go unanswered for a full hour, letting herself laugh, really laugh, when Marley pulled her into the kitchen to dance with flour on her face and music playing off a phone speaker. And then there were the bigger things, like kissing Marley in the morning because she wanted to, not because it was expected, like pulling her close in the middle of the night without thinking, like saying stay instead of pretending they still lived in different rooms. But the world outside didn't stay quiet forever. It never does. On the day everything cracked open, Camille was in a meeting when her assistant barged in, pale and tense. "You need to see this." Camille raised an eyebrow. "I'm in the middle of, now." She followed her into the hall. The assistant handed her a phone. The headline read, "CEO Camille Moreau's secret wife exposed. From janitor to heiress?" Below it, a full-page spread of photos. Camille and Marley at the gala. Camille and Marley on the balcony. Camille and Marley, walking hand in hand. But the worst, Camille kissing Marley in the garden at a private event 3 nights ago. The photo was grainy, but unmistakable. How did they get this? Camille muttered. Security was tight. Someone sold it. Of course they did. Her stomach twisted. "What do you want to do?" her assistant asked. "Deny? Spin it." Camille stared at the screen.
"No."
"I'm not hiding her." "You sure?" "Yes." But when she got home that night, Marley was already pacing in the living room, phone in hand, looking both livid and scared. "I saw it," she said as soon as Camille walked in. "I know. I didn't sign up for this. You signed a contract to marry me, not to have my face plastered all over tabloids like some social experiment. You think that's what this is?" Camille said, voice suddenly cold. "That you're my project? I don't know what to think." Marley threw her phone down. "You barely looked at me in public for weeks. Then you kiss me like I'm oxygen and still act like this thing doesn't exist outside these walls." Camille stepped forward. "I never wanted to make you feel hidden, but you did. Because I was scared." Camille's voice cracked. "You think I've ever let anyone in like this? You think I've ever woken up with someone beside me and thought please don't ever leave?" Marley stared at her. "Then say that. Not just behind closed doors." "I'm trying. Try harder." Camille closed the space between them. "This is real to me, Marley." "Then act like it. I kissed you in front of half the board 3 nights ago. You kissed me because you wanted to, not because you were ready to claim me. And what do you want? I want to stop feeling like I'm holding my breath waiting for you to pick me in public the same way you pick me in private." Camille's chest rose and fell. "Then let's do it." Marley blinked. "What?" "An interview. A statement. Together. Not as some PR stunt, but as us." "Camille, you said I needed to stop pretending."
"Fine.
"I'll show them." Marley stepped back, uncertain. "You do that. I'd do anything to make you feel like I'm not ashamed of what we are." "And what are we?" Camille reached for her hand. "Something real." Marley didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. The next day, the statement dropped. It was short.
Direct.
Camille Moreau confirmed she was married. Yes, it had started unexpectedly. No, she wouldn't be answering questions about her wife's background. And yes, she was very much in love. The final line made headlines. She is not my secret. She's the best decision I ever made. Marley read it in silence, then looked up at Camille from across the kitchen. That wasn't in the original draft. I added it. Marley's lips twitched. You're kind of a sap. You bring it out in me. That night, they curled into each other without words. But the silence wasn't avoidance anymore. It was comfort. Camille held her like she was holding her own heart. Marley kissed her like it was the only language she trusted. But deep down, both of them knew this was just the beginning. The world had finally noticed them, and the storm was far from over. Camille had never thought she'd see her face splashed across gossip magazines beside someone else's.
Especially not like this.
Not kissing Marley in a blurry photo that somehow captured more truth than 1,000 press releases ever could. You're trending, her assistant said flatly, dropping the latest magazine on her desk. Camille didn't even flinch. Good. Let them talk.
They are.
And it's not all kind. It never is. They're digging into her past. Camille's jaw tightened. How deep? Everything.
Her job history.
Her family. Even an old tweet where she called billionaires parasites. Camille snorted. She's not wrong. Camille. Handle it. Handle what, exactly? All of it. But some things couldn't be handled. Not the cameras parked outside their building. Not the whispers Marley heard at the market. Not the subtle change in people's smiles when they recognized her. The quiet judgment behind every, "You must be so lucky." At first, Marley laughed it off. Let them stare, she'd say. I'd stare at us too. But it wore her down.
Slowly.
Painfully. One night, after a particularly brutal headline calling her the janitor wife, Cinderella or con artist, Camille came home to find Marley curled up on the kitchen floor, phone on the tiles beside her, tears on her cheeks. Camille dropped her bag instantly. What happened? Marley didn't answer. Just shook her head. Camille sank down beside her. Tell me. They're calling me a joke, Marley whispered. Like I tricked you. Like I'm some kind of social climber who scrubbed floors until I could sleep my way into silk sheets. Camille's face went hard. They don't know you. They don't have to. They just have to say it loud enough. Camille reached out, cupping her face. You didn't trick me. You changed me. That's not manipulation. That's power. Marley gave a hollow laugh, not the kind they admire. Then screw them. Camille leaned in. You hear me? You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Least of all to a world that's afraid of women like you. Women like me? Smart. Unapologetic. Impossible to ignore. Marley closed her eyes. I'm trying to be strong. You're strong. But you don't have to carry this alone. And for the first time in a long time, Camille let Marley cry against her shoulder. No pride. No performance. Just grief. And love.
And skin. And breath.
The next morning, Camille canceled all her meetings. She took Marley out of the city. No press, no drivers. Just the two of them in a rented car, driving until the skyline disappeared and the lake opened up like a secret. They found a quiet cabin. One bed. No Wi-Fi. Marley looked around and said, if you're planning to bury a body, this is the perfect spot. Only the part of me that cared about optics. So, most of you. Used to be. The weekend was quiet. They cooked. They slept in. They read books and played old records and went swimming at dusk. Camille never said it aloud, but she knew. She was falling. Not gracefully. Not carefully. But completely. One night, lying in bed with Marley's head on her stomach, Camille asked, did you ever imagine this? Any of it? Marley traced circles on her thigh. Sometimes. Not the money. Or the penthouse. But the way you look at me?
Yeah.
I imagined that. Camille swallowed. I'm not good at this. At what? Letting someone love me. Then you're lucky, Marley said, smiling against her skin. Because I'm great at it. Camille laughed softly. I believe you. Marley looked up. But I need to know something. Anything. When this ends, don't. Listen to me. When this ends, whether it's in a year or 20, I need to know you'll remember who you were with me. Not the CEO. Not the Ice Queen. Just Camille. Camille met her gaze. There's no me without you anymore. Marley kissed her.
Slow. Certain.
Like a promise. But when they returned to the city, reality was waiting. In Camille's office sat a woman from the legal department, face pinched, holding a folder. You need to see this, she said. Camille opened it and felt her stomach drop.
It was a contract.
One Camille had forgotten existed. The original marriage contract. The one that said the arrangement would expire after 1 year unless both parties renewed it. The clock was ticking. And they both knew it. Camille closed the folder. No one else sees this. Understood. But Marley had already seen the change in Camille's eyes that night. What is it? She asked. Nothing. Camille. I'll handle it. Stop saying that. Stop protecting me by pushing me away. Camille hesitated. Do you want out? What? Of this. Of me. Marley stepped back like she'd been slapped. Is that what you think? Camille didn't answer. Couldn't. She was afraid of what would come out. Marley shook her head. Don't push me now. Not when I've stayed through everything. I'm scared, Camille said finally, that I'll lose you the second you realize you deserve more than what I can give. You already give me more than anyone ever has. Camille blinked. Then why does this still feel like we're on borrowed time? Marley stepped forward. Because we haven't stopped pretending it started as a game. But it's not anymore. You know it. I know it. Camille looked at her. So, what do we do? Marley took her hand. We stop waiting for it to end. And start building something we both want to keep. Camille breathed in. And for the first time, she let herself believe it might actually be possible. Camille had never been in love before. Not really. She'd had obsessions. Lust. Power plays mistaken for affection. But love was quiet, unassuming. It crept in through the cracks, grew in stolen glances and midnight silences. It tasted like Marley's skin after a shower. Felt like her fingers curling against Camille's chest when she mumbled nonsense in her sleep. It sounded like Camille's own breath catching when Marley smiled. And now that she recognized it, truly recognized it, Camille couldn't ignore the ticking clock. 1 year. That was the deal. That was the cage she'd built around this thing before she knew it would matter. Before she knew Marley would matter. She didn't tell her.
Not yet.
Couldn't bear to say the words. We're running out of time. Instead, she started pulling away again. Not drastically. Just enough to protect herself. She worked later. Slept on her side of the bed. Kisses were shorter. Touches less frequent. Marley noticed. Of course she did. Is this about the contract? She asked one night, blunt as ever. Camille froze mid-buttoning her blouse. What? Don't lie to me, Camille. I know you. You're retreating. That means you're scared. So tell me, are you planning to let this expire? Camille looked down. It's complicated. It's not. Marley's voice cracked. Either you want to stay married or you don't. Camille clenched her jaw. I want you. That hasn't changed. But I don't know if I can keep you the way you deserve to be kept. Let me decide what I deserve. Camille finally looked at her. If you stay, it's not just love anymore. It's legacy. It's scrutiny. It's board members who want me to remarry someone from their world. It's journalists digging into your past every month. It's never-ending. Marley stepped forward. Then we fight it. Together. You shouldn't have to fight because of me. But I want to. God, Camille, can't you see? I'd rather be in the storm with you than in peace without you. Camille exhaled shakily. You say that now. I'll say it again tomorrow. And the day after. And the day after that. But Camille didn't kiss her. Didn't pull her close. Just stood there, trembling. The next morning, Marley was gone. Not her things. Just her. A note left on Camille's pillow. I'm not leaving. I just need space. I love you, but I can't keep trying to prove I belong in your world. You have to decide if there's room for me. Camille sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, staring at the note, heart hammering. Days passed. The penthouse felt colder, quiet, like Marley had taken the warmth with her. Camille went through the motions. Meetings,
Calls.
smiling at cameras. But everything tasted like cardboard. Until one evening, Camille came home to find Marley's sketchbook left open on the coffee table. A drawing of Camille's back, hair down, sitting on the balcony. Below it, a single line. I wish she knew she was already loved, without needing to earn it. Camille broke. She sat on the floor and cried. Real, body-racking sobs that she'd buried for years. And when she stood again, something in her had shifted. That night, she went to Marley's old apartment. Knocked on the door like a stranger. Marley opened it, wearing sweatpants and a confused frown. Camille? I need you to hear something, Camille said, voice shaking. Okay, I was terrified, not just of losing you, but of having you. Because I knew that meant I'd never be the same. And I wasn't sure I deserved that kind of love. But I don't care anymore. I love you. I want to stay married to you. Not for the board, not for PR, but because I can't imagine a life where you're not the first thing I see every morning.
I want more than a contract.
I want a future. Marley stared at her, breath caught. Say it again. I want a future with you. Marley grabbed her by the shirt, pulled her in, and kissed her like she was claiming air after drowning. When they broke apart, Marley whispered, Then don't wait. Rewrite it. The contract. Rewrite everything. Will you sign it? Only if you write in the clause that you have to kiss me every day before coffee. Camille smiled.
Done.
That night, they stayed in Marley's old apartment. No silk sheets. No penthouse views. Just a worn-down couch, takeout containers on the floor, and their bodies tangled like roots of something that had finally been planted for real. Camille kissed every part of her like a confession. Marley whispered, You're allowed to be loved, Camille. And for the first time, Camille believed it. The new contract was short. Handwritten. No lawyers. No clauses about expiration dates or social obligations. Just one sentence. I promise to stay not because I have to, but because I want to every single day. Marley signed first. Then Camille. They framed it. Hung it above the bed. It was their proof. Not for the world, but for themselves. But love didn't erase reality. It didn't stop Camille's board from whispering. Didn't stop Marley from feeling out of place in rooms filled with old money and colder smiles. They look at me like I'm the temporary wife of a very permanent CEO, Marley said one night after a company gala. Then let them choke on it, Camille answered. You're not temporary. You're the reason I breathe. You can't fix this with poetry. It's not poetry. It's the truth. Marley sighed. I just want to feel like I belong in your world without having to disappear from mine. And Camille understood that more than she could say. So she made space. Started inviting Marley to decision meetings, not as a guest, but as a partner. She's not just my wife, Camille said during a press conference. She's my sounding board, my mirror, my gut check. She reminds me how to stay human. Marley's eyes glistened. And that somehow became the new rhythm. Marley spent half her time working on small business mentorships, helping women like her navigate impossible systems. Camille learned how to unplug. They met in the middle, laughed more, argued honestly, loved fiercely. But just when things seemed to finally settle, Camille's past walked through the door. Her name was Elise Renault, Camille's ex. The kind of ex who never really left, just lingered in the background of power and reputation. Elise had been out of the country for months. She returned with a headline and a plan. You married the janitor? Elise said, voice thick with condescension, as she stood in Camille's office uninvited. Camille didn't flinch. You're trespassing. I'm trying to understand. A year ago, you said you'd never settle for someone who didn't come from the same world as you. Then a year ago, I was an idiot. Elise raised a brow. And now I'm happy. Something you've never managed to make me. So this marriage is real. Very. How long until it collapses under the weight of your differences? It won't. And if she walks away? She won't. How do you know? Camille stood slowly, voice calm and absolute. Because I'd burn the world down before I let her feel alone in it. Elise scoffed. You were never like this with me. Exactly. Later that night, Camille found Marley in the kitchen, barefoot in Camille's old, oversized hoodie. Elise stopped by. Camille said carefully. Marley blinked. What did she want? To remind me of everything I used to be. And to remind me I never want to be that woman again. Marley leaned against the counter. Do you still love her? Camille frowned. Not even a little. But she represents a version of me that still thought love was a transaction. That's not who I am anymore. And that's because of you. Marley walked over. You don't owe me transformation, Camille. I didn't fall for who you could become. I fell for who you already were underneath all the armor. Camille cupped her cheek. Then let me spend the rest of my life earning that faith. And just like that, the tension dissolved. For a while. Until the world came knocking again. A media outlet got access to the original contract. The 1-year clause. The marriage of convenience headlines returned. Do we address it?
Camille asked.
Marley looked at the tabloid, then back at Camille. We tell the truth. And so they did. In a sit-down interview, side by side, holding hands. Yes, our marriage started on a dare, Camille said. I made a reckless promise and fate handed me someone I didn't know would change my entire life. And yes, Marley added, I was a janitor when we met. But now I'm also her wife, her partner, and a woman who helped build something with her, something that was never fake. What changed? The interviewer asked. Camille looked at Marley. She did. Then I did. Then everything. And are you still married? Camille smiled. We rewrote the contract. This time for forever. The internet exploded. Some mocked. Some cried. But most believed. And Camille didn't care about the noise anymore. All she cared about was coming home to find Marley curled on the couch, sketching a new mural for a community center, her face lit by lamplight and quiet joy. Camille walked over, dropped a kiss to her head, and whispered, Still choosing you. Marley smiled without looking up. Still choosing you, too. They hadn't reached the end. But they were writing it, together, one impossible, stubborn, reckless, beautiful day at a time. The interview changed everything. Suddenly, they weren't just a whispered headline or a PR mystery. They were real to the world. Painfully, beautifully real. Strangers sent messages. Some grateful. Some hateful. Some just curious. Camille turned off her notifications. Marley didn't. I want to know how people see us, she said. Why?
Camille asked.
Because it helps me see where we still scare them. And that matters to you? It matters that we don't shrink. But Camille was already starting to shrink, not because of the public, but because of something deeper. Something older. It began with her mother. A call. Cold. Formal. I saw your little interview, the woman said. Mother, do you even realize what you've done to our family name? Built it into something that finally means something real? You've made a mockery of yourself. Of us. That girl. That woman is my wife. She was a janitor. And now she's my home.
Camille.
Enough. This is not who you are. Camille's voice dropped to a tremble. No, it's who I've always been. You just refuse to see it. You're ruining everything I spent decades building. Camille's breath caught. Then I'll build something better. She hung up, but her hand shook for hours. When Marley got home, Camille didn't say anything at first. Just pulled her close, held her too tightly, and whispered, Don't let me turn cold again. Never, Marley whispered back. But something had opened. And not all wounds bleed in public. A week passed. Camille smiled less, slept more, woke in the middle of the night and stared at the ceiling as if waiting for it all to collapse. Marley noticed. She tried to reach her, gently, then directly, then with frustration.
Talk to me, she begged.
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. But you are. I can see it. You're pulling back into yourself. I'm tired, Camille said one night, voice flat. So rest with me. I don't know how. Marley's heart cracked. You're not alone anymore. I don't know how to believe that either. Camille went quiet. Marley stood, walked to the door. I love you, she said. But I can't love you for you. Camille didn't stop her from leaving. And that terrified her more than anything. The next morning, Camille sat in her office and stared at the framed contract on the wall. One sentence. That's all. I promise to stay not because I have to, but because I want to every single day. What happened when you wanted to stay but didn't know if you deserved to? Her assistant knocked. She canceled her schedule today. Who? Camille asked, already knowing.
Marley.
She said she needed space. Camille nodded. That night, the penthouse felt hollow again. She cooked dinner.
Poured wine.
Waited. Marley didn't come. Camille didn't sleep. She called. No answer. Texted. Nothing. The next morning, she went to the community center where Marley had started volunteering. Found her painting a mural with kids. Laughing. Alive in a way Camille hadn't seen in days. She waited until Marley finished, then walked over slowly. Hey. Marley stiffened. Hey. You didn't come home. I wasn't sure I should. You should. Camille, please. Marley turned, eyes tired. I love you, but I can't pour myself into someone who keeps putting walls back up every time it gets hard. I'm trying. Then try harder. You don't understand what it's like to grow up being told your love will never be enough. That your softness makes you weak. That every time you feel too much, you lose control. Marley's voice softened. Maybe I don't. But I understand what it's like to be loved in pieces. And I don't want that again. I want all of you, even the parts that scare you. Camille took a shaky breath. Then I need help. I've been offering it.
No.
Real help. I started therapy. Marley blinked. You did. Camille nodded. Last week. After I spoke to my mother, I realized I don't want to carry her voice in my head for the rest of my life. Marley's eyes filled. Camille, I want to be better.
For you. For me.
For us. But I don't want to pretend anymore. Marley stepped forward slowly. You don't have to. Just let me in. Camille reached for her hand. Come home. Only if you let it be our home. It already is. They stood there in the sunlit hallway of the community center, fingers intertwined, surrounded by laughter and paint. And for the first time, Camille felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because they were finally walking through the fire together. No walls, no pretending, no contracts. Just love. Messy, hard, beautiful love. And Camille was finally ready to believe she deserved it. Camille used to think that love was about control. If she could contain it, name it, predict it, then she could survive it. But Marley had destroyed that theory. Because nothing about her was predictable. Not the way she laughed with her whole body. Not the way she could cut through Camille's defenses with 3 words. Not the way she stayed, over and over, even when she had every reason to walk away. Now, weeks after the interview, after the therapy began, after the storm started quieting, Camille felt something unfamiliar blooming inside her. Hope. They had a rhythm again. Not perfect, not polished, but real. Marley moved back in. They shared mornings again, coffee, jokes, brushing teeth side by side. They talked. Not just about work or headlines, but about the things that had always been too quiet. Childhood wounds, what forgiveness really meant, the future. And then one morning, Camille found a note on her laptop. From Marley. I've been thinking about what I want, about what we've built, and about what comes next. Meet me at the place where it all started. Camille didn't need more than that. She knew exactly where to go. The janitor's closet, on the lowest floor of the corporate building. Where Marley had been working the night she accidentally walked into Camille's life and changed it forever. Camille took the elevator down, heart pounding, passing employees who politely averted their eyes. No one used this level anymore. When she opened the door to the old supply room, Marley was waiting, sitting cross-legged on the floor, the mop still propped in the corner, a small smile on her lips. "I almost didn't come," Camille said. "You always come. Only for you." Marley stood. "Do you remember the first thing you said to me?" "That I'd marry the next person who walked in. And I said, 'Don't tempt me.' And I thought, 'God help me.'" They laughed, but it was thick with emotion. "Why here?" Camille asked. Marley stepped forward. "Because this place was nothing. Forgotten. Just like I felt. And you looked at me and didn't flinch. Even when I was messy. Even when I was furious. You were fearless. I was pretending. So was I." Marley took Camille's hand. "I want to make this place mean something. For both of us. Not because it's glamorous, but because it's ours."
How?
"By saying yes again." Camille blinked.
What?
Marley pulled something from her pocket. Not a ring. A small silver key. "This is the key to the rooftop of this building. I pulled strings. I want to paint a mural up there. For us. For everyone who ever felt like they didn't belong in places like this. And I want to ask you something." Camille's breath caught. "Anything." Marley stepped closer. "Will you marry me?" Camille stared at her. "We're already married." "I know. But I want to do it again. For real this time. Not a contract. Not a dare. A choice." Camille didn't hesitate.
Yes. Yes.
1,000 times yes. Marley laughed, half in relief, half in awe. "I didn't think I'd ever want something like this. A wedding. A forever. But with you, I finally believe in it." They kissed there, in the old closet where everything had begun. Only now, there was no tension, no armor, no pretense. Just two women who had chosen each other through every storm. Later that night, they stood on the rooftop. Camille's suit jacket draped over Marley's shoulders. The wind tangling their hair. "You really want to paint this whole wall?"
Camille asked. Yep.
"With what?" "A timeline. Our story. Not with words. With colors. Chaos.
Joy.
Anger. Fire. All of it. Won't that be vulnerable?" "Exactly. You've changed me, you know." "I know." Camille turned to her. "This next wedding. I want it small. Just us. Maybe Leo, if we can get him to wear a bow tie." Marley laughed. "Deal. And I want to make vows this time. Real ones. Camille Moreau making real vows. Alert the press. They'll be from the heart. And I'll mean every word. Then I want to write mine too. Then we'll promise what matters. Not forever. Not perfection. Just that we'll keep choosing each other. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Camille pulled Marley into her arms, the city spread beneath them, their future unwritten, but suddenly, full of possibility. "One more thing," Camille whispered. "What?" "Don't ever walk into another room without me again. Because the moment you did, I lost control. And I never want to take that risk again." Marley grinned. "Then stay close. Always." The mural would come later. The wedding after that. But in that moment on that roof, they already had everything. Not because they had it all figured out, but because they had each other. And finally, that was enough. The second wedding wasn't extravagant. It wasn't televised. It wasn't even traditional. There was no church, no aisle, no lavish banquet hall. Just a rooftop, an unfinished mural drying behind them, and the wind carrying the scent of rain. Camille wore a dark, tailored suit. Marley wore white pants and a linen shirt that floated around her like she belonged to the sky. They didn't invite hundreds. Only 10.
Friends.
A few colleagues. Leo, who barked twice during the ceremony and then fell asleep near Marley's feet. It wasn't scripted. There was no minister. No forced vows. Just two women standing in front of the life they built, surrounded by people who had watched it bloom from chaos. Camille spoke first. She didn't read from a card. Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't leave Marley's for a second. "I never believed in love," she said. "Not the kind that wasn't transactional. Not the kind that didn't come with an expiration date. But then you walked in, holding a mop, scowling at the floor like it had personally offended you. And something in me cracked open. I didn't fall for you right away. I fought it. I denied it. I tried to manage it like I manage everything. But love doesn't want to be managed. It wants to be felt. And you made me feel it." Marley's eyes filled with tears. Camille stepped closer. "You challenged me, called me out, took my coldest days and filled them with heat. You made me laugh when I didn't think I remembered how. You saw me when I couldn't even see myself. And today, I'm not marrying you out of accident or obligation or some ridiculous boardroom stunt. I'm marrying you because I want to wake up every morning knowing I get to choose you again." Marley tried to speak, but her voice caught. She blinked through tears, then exhaled and let them fall. "I didn't know what I was walking into that night," she said. "I was tired, bitter. I thought I'd be invisible forever. And then you looked at me, really looked, like I mattered. Even when I tried to push you away, you stayed. Even when I was afraid, you stayed. I've never felt more seen than I do with you. And I've never wanted something more than I want this with you." She reached forward, took Camille's hands. "I promise to keep showing up. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I promise to speak, even when silence feels safer. I promise to choose you, Camille Moreau. The woman, not the CEO. Not the reputation. Just you." Camille whispered, "I love you." Marley smiled. "I know." Laughter rippled through the small group. And then they kissed. Slow. Intentional. The kind of kiss that didn't need permission anymore. That night, they danced barefoot under string lights on the rooftop. Camille kicked off her heels. Marley dragged her into the music. They laughed. Ate cake with their fingers. Took blurry photos. Leo ran in circles around them. It was perfect, not because it looked like perfection, but because it felt like it. Later, alone in bed, Marley traced lazy circles on Camille's bare back. "We actually did it," she whispered. "Yeah," Camille murmured. "We did." Still scared. Every day. But I'm not alone anymore. That makes all the difference. Marley rolled on top of her, grinning. "Mrs. Janitor girl has a nice ring to it." Camille laughed, eyes glowing. "You'll always be the one who ruined me for anyone else." Good. That was the plan. Months passed. The mural was finished, an explosion of color and chaos and joy. It became a landmark. People visited, took photos, asked questions. Camille and Marley kept building. A nonprofit, a mentorship program, a life. They had fights. They had slow mornings. They had seasons of doubt. But they never stopped choosing. And in the end, that was the promise that mattered. Years later, someone would ask them how it all started. Camille would smile and say, "She walked in holding a mop." Marley would laugh and add, "And she never let me walk out again." And that would be the truth. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.